Right now, as you watch this, a storm system that meteorologists have been quietly dreading for weeks is making a turn that nobody wanted to see. Experts who track these systems for a living are using words they rarely use in public. Words like historic, words like dangerous, words like unprecedented for this time of year. And here is the part that should stop you in your tracks. The people most at risk from what this storm is about to do may not even know it is coming. Not because the warnings are not being issued, they are. But because the speed of the system's deterioration, the sheer pace at which conditions are worsening, is outrunning the ability of millions of Americans to prepare. We are going to walk you through exactly what happened, exactly what the science says is coming next, and exactly why the experts who study these systems for decades are genuinely alarmed. Stay with us. The numbers we are about to share are not designed to frighten you. They're designed to make sure you're still standing when this is over. To understand why this storm's turn has the meteorological community so concerned, you first have to understand what was already in place before it made its move. The atmosphere across the central United States entering this week was already loaded in a way that veteran forecasters described as one of the most favorable environments for organized severe weather they had seen in years. A sprawling upper-level trough was digging aggressively out of the Pacific Northwest, and out ahead of it, an enormous warm and moist air mass had surged northward from the Gulf of Mexico. Dew points across Kansas and Oklahoma were running 15 to 20 degrees above normal for this time of year. Atmospheric instability, measured in a unit called joules per kilogram, was running at values that meteorologists typically only see during the most explosive severe weather outbreaks of the year. The Storm Prediction Center had already placed over 40 million people under some level of severe weather risk heading into the week, and that number was growing with every model update that came in. And that was all before the system made its turn. The turn came on a Tuesday afternoon. A surface low-pressure system that had been tracking in a relatively predictable direction across the Central Plains suddenly deepened at a rate that meteorologists describe as explosive cyclogenesis. In plain terms, it got stronger, faster than almost anyone expected. Within 6 hours, the central pressure of that low dropped by nearly about 18 millibars. To put that in context, a drop of 12 millibars in 24 hours is enough to qualify as explosive cyclogenesis by the formal meteorological definition. This system accomplished something close to that in a fraction of the time, and when a surface low deepens that rapidly, the winds around it respond instantly and they respond violently. The low-level jet stream roared to life across the warm sector ahead of the system, screaming out of the south-southwest at speeds that were forcing meteorologists to revise their storm threat assessments upward in real time. And with that jet came the atmospheric fuel, the raw instability, and the rotational energy that powers the most violent thunderstorms on Earth. By Tuesday evening, the Storm Prediction Center had logged 14 preliminary tornado reports across 4 states. 14 in a single evening. Supercell thunderstorms had formed along a sharply defined warm front draped across the upper Midwest, fueled by the deepening low and the explosive instability building ahead of it. These were not ordinary severe thunderstorms. These were long-tracked, organized, rotating supercells of the kind that meteorologists spend their careers studying and that the public spends its life hoping never visits their neighborhood. The most significant damage reports came from a corridor stretching from northeastern Kansas up through central Iowa and into southern Wisconsin. In one Kansas county alone, emergency management reported snapped power poles, structural damage to multiple homes, and a confirmed tornado track stretching nearly 8 miles. Baseball-sized hail-battered parts of southern Minnesota and central Wisconsin, punching through car windshields and stripping siding from homes in minutes. More than 60,000 customers in Wisconsin had lost power by early the following morning. And the National Weather Service offices covering the affected area issued a statement that evening that used language reserved for the most serious of situations. They did not say the storms were weakening. They said the system was reloading. That word, reloading, is the one that should command your attention. Because what makes this particular storm so dangerous, what has experts genuinely concerned in ways they are rarely willing to express publicly, is not what it has already done. It is what it is positioned to do next. A storm that is done is a storm that is weakening, one that is losing its energy source, one that can say definitively that the worst is behind us. This is not that storm. The same frontal boundary that ignited the initial outbreak remains essentially stationary, draped across the landscape like a loaded weapon. Every afternoon, as surface heating builds and atmospheric instability spikes, that boundary becomes a focal point for new rounds of violent convection. Forecasters confirmed that multiple low-pressure waves are expected to track along this same boundary over the coming days, each one carrying the potential for supercells capable of generating a new round of giant hail, a new round of tornado threats across communities that, in some cases, have not yet had time to assess the damage from the previous round. Think about what that means for the people living along that corridor. Not one punch, a sequence of punches landing before you can get back up. Families that spent Tuesday night sheltering in their basements emerging Wednesday morning to assess the damage, only to face the reality that Wednesday afternoon could bring the same threat all over again. Emergency managers stretched thin, shelter volunteers exhausted, power crews trying to restore electricity to tens of thousands of customers while new storm warnings are already being issued for the afternoon. What would you do if forecasters told you tonight that tomorrow and the day after, and possibly the day after that, dangerous storms were targeting your neighborhood? Drop your city in the comments right now and tell us your storm plan. Millions of Americans are facing exactly that reality this week, and the answers they give in the next 48 hours could determine whether they are safe on the other side of this. But to truly understand the weight of what is happening right now, you need to understand what this year has already delivered, because 2026 did not begin quietly. It announced itself with a violence that set the tone for everything that followed. On the night of January 23rd, a winter storm of almost incomprehensible scale began its assault on the United States. It would ultimately sweep from northern Mexico all the way to the northeastern coast and into Canada, dropping 1 to 2 feet of snow from Texas to Maine, triggering emergency declarations in 24 states, canceling more than 10,000 flights, and knocking out power to over 1 million customers across a swath of the country that included Tennessee, Mississippi, and Louisiana. The total damage exceeded $4 billion, and when the final fatality count was confirmed, 174 people had lost their lives. 174. That made it the deadliest North American winter storm since Winter Storm Uri in 2021, the storm that collapsed the Texas power grid and brought an entire state to its knees. And embedded within that same January system, almost as an afterthought given everything else it was doing, was an outbreak of 5 confirmed tornadoes across southern Alabama, southwestern Georgia, and the Florida Panhandle. One of those tornadoes was rated EF2 in January. The brutality of this year's weather began in its very first week, and it has simply not let up since. Then came the night of March 5th. A mother and her teenage daughter were driving on State Highway 60 west of Fairview, Oklahoma. They were on the phone with a loved one when the call went dead. Sheriff Tony Robinson of Major County told reporters his office used the phone signal to find them. What they found was the wreckage of their vehicle and the bodies of 47-year-old Jody Owens and her 13-year-old daughter Lexi, killed when an EF2 tornado with winds between 115 and 120 miles per hour struck their car and threw them from it. They were the first tornado fatalities of 2026 in the United States, the first since June of 2025. Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt released a public statement that night expressing his prayers for the family. Their names were Jody and Lexi Owens. Say their names. Remember them. Because they are not a statistic in a seasonal report. They are not a data point in a climatological study. They are the human reality of what these storms do when they find someone in the wrong place at the wrong moment, with nowhere to go and no warning that arrived in time to matter. The very next day, March 6th, that same storm system had reloaded. This time, its sights were on Michigan. A lone supercell thunderstorm developed in southwest Michigan, far outside the area that forecasters had identified as carrying the greatest tornado risk. That storm produced 4 confirmed tornadoes. The most violent of them, an EF3 rated at 160 miles per hour, struck the area near Union City. 160 miles per hour. The National Weather Service called it the strongest tornado to hit Michigan in nearly 50 years, since an F4 tore through Kalamazoo in April of 1977. 3 people were killed along Prairie Rose Lane and Tuttle Park Drive. 63-year-old William Andrew Akers, 54-year-old Karan Johnson, 65-year-old Penny Jo Guthrie. Several homes were swept completely off their foundations. One man survived only because he had taken shelter inside a fireplace, the single structure left standing on his property when the tornado passed. A well-anchored mobile home was thrown 100 yards. An EF2 also struck 3 rivers, tearing the roof off a Menards store while customers were still shopping inside. And in Edwardsburg, a 12-year-old boy named Silas Anderson was killed when a separate tornado struck his home. No advanced warning reached him in time. 4 people killed in a single day, in a state where a tornado of that magnitude had not been seen in nearly half a century. If you have been following this channel, you know we verify every fact before we put it in front of you. Nothing fabricated, nothing exaggerated. So right now, hit that like button and share this video with someone you care about, because the information we are covering today could genuinely matter to someone in your life. This is not a hypothetical threat. This is documented, verified, heartbreaking reality. Then came March 10th, and this is where the 2026 storm season moved from alarming into territory that veteran meteorologists are struggling to find the right words to describe. A catastrophic hail event swept across 9 states simultaneously: Illinois, Oklahoma, Missouri, Kansas, Texas, Indiana, Michigan, Iowa, and Wisconsin. In Kane, Illinois, an EF3 tornado with winds of 150 miles per hour carved a track of nearly 36 miles across the landscape, killing 3 people and injuring 11 more. But as devastating as that tornado was, it was almost secondary to what was falling from the sky that night. A hailstone measuring 6 inches in diameter, a stone larger than a grapefruit, was officially documented and measured by Dr. Victor Gensini of Northern Illinois University. That measurement shattered the previous Illinois state record of 4.75 inches that had stood since 2015. It is now believed to be the largest hailstone ever officially documented east of the Mississippi River. Think about that. Not the largest in Illinois, not the largest in the region, the largest ever recorded east of the Mississippi River, falling from a single storm on a single night in 2026. The National Weather Service logged 51 separate reports of severe hail in just one single hour during that event. The entire outbreak impacted more than 125 million structures across 854 cities, spanning 20 metro areas. The NWS Quad Cities office confirmed that March 10, 2026 was the 5th busiest hail day in recorded American history. The 5th busiest ever, in a nation that has been keeping meteorological records for over a century. Are you surprised that March 2026 produced over 50 confirmed tornadoes? Or does it feel uncomfortably like this kind of thing is starting to feel disturbingly routine? We want to know what you think is driving this pattern. Drop your answer in the comments, because the pattern matters. The science behind it matters. And the question of whether what we are experiencing represents a new normal is one that researchers are actively and urgently trying to answer. Now, here's what the experts are watching with the greatest urgency as this current system continues its dangerous turn. And when we say experts, we do not mean social media meteorologists or weekend weather enthusiasts. We mean the scientists and forecasters at institutions like the National Severe Storms Laboratory, Colorado State University, and the Storm Prediction Center, people who have devoted their entire professional lives to understanding exactly these kinds of systems. Colorado State. University's Tropical Weather Research Team released their 2026 Atlantic hurricane season forecast recently, and while they project a slightly below average season overall, estimating 13 named storms including 6 hurricanes, there is a warning buried deep within that forecast that deserves the full attention of every person watching this video. Dr. Michael Bell, who co-authored the forecast, stated plainly that it takes only one storm near you to make this an active season for you. One storm. That is the cold and unsparing reality of severe weather in the United States in 2026. Below average seasons still kill people. They still level neighborhoods. They still leave families standing in the ruins of homes that were standing when they woke up that morning with nothing left but each other and whatever they managed to carry out the door in the minutes before a storm arrived. The statistics of an average or below average season offer exactly zero protection when you are the one standing directly in the path of the one storm that forms near you. Subscribe to this channel right now and hit the notification bell, because in a year as violent as this one, staying informed is not optional. It is the difference between having a plan and not having one. And in the 60 seconds between a tornado warning and impact, a plan is everything. We are here before, during, and after every major outbreak, delivering the verified, sourced, documented facts that help you and the people you love stay one step ahead of what is coming and make the decisions that keep you safe when it arrives. So here is where things stand today, as the system continues its turn into territory that has experts reaching for words they do not use lightly. The frontal boundary responsible for this week's outbreak is expected to remain in place, serving as a corridor for additional storm development each afternoon as instability rebuilds. The Storm Prediction Center has warned explicitly that repeated rounds of severe thunderstorms and heavy rainfall could continue affecting the central and southern plains, the Midwest, and the Great Lakes over the coming days. Multiple low-pressure waves are expected to track along that same boundary, each one carrying the potential for supercells capable of producing hail the size of baseballs or larger, wind gusts that can strip roofs from buildings, and tornadoes that, in the right environment, could be rated EF2, EF3, or higher. Look at what this year has already produced. A mother and daughter killed on a highway in Oklahoma with no one there to help them. 4 people, including a 12-year-old boy, killed in Michigan when a tornado struck a region that had not seen anything like it in nearly half a century. 3 more dead from the Kane tornado in Illinois. 174 Americans killed by a single winter storm in January. A hailstone larger than any ever officially recorded east of the Mississippi River, falling from the sky in March. 14 tornadoes logged in a single evening just this week. And the forecast does not promise, does not even suggest, that we are anywhere near the end of it. This is not doom. This is not sensationalism. This is data. Verified, documented, peer-reviewed data. And that data is demanding loudly that you pay attention. The question that should be on the mind of every person watching this video right now, whether you live in Tornado Alley, the Great Lakes, the Southeast, or anywhere in between, is not whether another dangerous storm is coming. The science of 2026 has already answered that question with a clarity that cannot be argued with. They are coming. The only question that remains, the only question that actually matters, is whether you are ready when they arrive, whether you have a plan, whether the people you love know what to do in the seconds between a warning and an impact. Because in a storm season like this, in a year that has already broken records that stood for generations and killed people who thought they were safe, those seconds may be all you get.